Hello everybody, I'm making this video by request from a friend who is functionally blind. I'm going to read a couple of things verbatim. First is Loren R. Mosher's MD's resignation letter to the APA. Then I'm going to read his biography. Both these documents will be read verbatim, that is, word for word, exactly as they appear. Without further ado, here's the resignation letter. Loren R. Mosher, MD, 2616 Angle Ave, San Diego, California, 92122. Telephone 619-550-0312. Fax 619-558-0854. Dated December 4th, 1998. To Rodrigo Manaz, MD, President, American Psychiatric Association, 1400 K Street, North NW, Washington, D.C. 20005. Dear Rod, After nearly 3 decades as a member, it is with a mixture of pleasure and disappointment that I submit this letter of resignation from the American Psychiatric Association. The major reason for this action is my belief that I am actually resigning from the American Psychopharmacological Association. Luckily, the organization's true identity requires no change in the acronym. Unfortunately, APA reflects and reinforces in word and deed, our drug-dependent society, yet it helps wage war on drugs. Dual diagnosis clients are a major problem for the field, but not because of the good drugs we prescribed. Bad ones are those that are obtained mostly without a prescription. A Marxist would observe that being a good capitalist organization, APA likes only those drugs from which it can derive a profit, directly or indirectly. This is not a group for me. At this point in history, in my view, psychiatry has been almost completely bought out by the drug companies. The APA could not continue without the pharmaceutical company's support of meetings, symposia, workshops, journal advertising, grand rounds, luncheons, unrestricted educational grants, etc., etc. Psychiatrists have become the minions of drug company promotions. APA, of course, maintains that its independence and autonomy are not compromised in this enmeshed situation. Anyone with the least bit of common sense attending the annual meeting would observe how the drug company exhibits and, quote, industry-sponsored symposia, unquote, draw crowds with their various enticements, while the serious scientific sessions are barely attended. Psychiatric training reflects their influence as well. The most important part of a resident's curriculum is the art and quasi-science of dealing drugs, i.e., prescription writing. These psychopharmacological limitations on our abilities to be complete physicians also limit our intellectual horizons. No longer do we seek to understand whole persons in their social contexts. Rather, we are there to realign our patients' neurotransmitters. The problem is that it is very difficult to have a relationship with a neurotransmitter, whatever its configuration. So our guiled organization provides a rationale, by its neurobiological tunnel vision, for keeping our distance from the molecule conglomerates we have come to define as patients. We condone and promote the widespread use and misuse of toxic chemicals that we know have serious long-term effects: tardive dyskinesia, tardive dementia, and serious withdrawal syndromes. So, do I want to be a drug company patsy who treats molecules with their formulary? No, thank you very much. It saddens me that after 35 years as a psychiatrist, I look forward to being dissociated from such an organization. In no way does it represent my interests. It is not within my capacities to buy into the current biomedical reductionist model heralded by the psychiatric leadership as once again marrying us to somatic medicine. This is a matter of fashion, politics, and, like the pharmaceutical house connection, money. In addition, APA has entered into an unholy alliance with NAMI. I don't remember the members being asked if they supported such an association, such that the two organizations have adopted similar public belief systems about the nature of madness. While professing itself to be, quote, champion of their clients, unquote, the APA is supporting non-clients, the parents, in their wishes to be in control, via legally enforced dependency of their mad/bad offspring. NAMI, with tacit APA approval, has set out a pro-neuroleptic drug and easy commitment institutionalization agenda that violates the civil rights of their offspring. For the most part, we stand by and allow this fascistic agenda to move forward. Their psychiatric god, Dr. E. Fuller Torrey, is allowed to diagnose and recommend treatment to those in the NAMI organization with whom he disagrees, clearly a violation of medical ethics. Does APA protest? Of course not, because he is speaking what APA agrees with, but can't explicitly espouse. He is allowed to be a foil. After all, he is no longer a member of the APA. Slick work, APA. The short-sightedness of this marriage of convenience between APA, NAMI, and the drug companies, who gleefully support both groups because of their shared pro-drug stance, is an abomination. I want no part of a psychiatry of oppression and social control. Biologically based brain diseases, quote-unquote, are certainly convenient for families and practitioners alike. It is no-fault insurance against personal responsibility. We are all just helplessly caught up in a swirl of brain pathology for which no one, except DNA, is responsible. Now, to begin with, anything that has an anatomically defined specific brain pathology becomes the province of neurology. Syphilis is an excellent example. So, to be consistent with this, quote, brain disease, unquote, view, all the major psychiatric disorders would become the territory of our neurologic colleagues. Without having surveyed them, I believe they would eschew responsibility for these problematic individuals. However, consistency would demand our giving over, quote, biologic brain diseases, unquote, to them. The fact that there is no evidence confirming the brain disease attribution is, at this point, irrelevant. What we are dealing with here is fashion, politics, and money. The level of intellectual/scientific dishonesty is just too egregious for me to continue to support by my membership. I view with no surprise that psychiatric training is being systematically disavowed by American medical school graduates. This must give us cause for concern about the state of today's psychiatry. It must mean, at least in part, that they view psychiatry as being very limited and unchallenging. To me, it seems clear that we are headed toward a situation in which, except for academics, most psychiatric practitioners will have no real relationships, so vital to the healing process, with the disturbed and disturbing persons they treat. Their sole role will be that of prescription writers, ciphers in the guise of being quote-unquote helpers. Finally, why must the APA pretend to know more than it does? DSM-4 is the fabrication upon which psychiatry seeks acceptance by the medicine in general. Insiders know it is more a political than scientific document. To its credit, it says so, although its brief apologia is rarely noted. DSM-4 has become a Bible and a money-making bestseller, its major failings notwithstanding. It confines and defines practice. Some take it seriously, others more realistically. It is the way to get paid. Diagnostic reliability is easy to attain for research projects. The issue is, what do the categories tell us? Do they in fact accurately represent the person with a problem? No, they don't and can't, because there are no external validating criteria for psychiatric diagnosis. There is neither a blood test nor specific anatomic lesions for any major psychiatric disorder. So where are we? APA has an organization has implicitly, sometimes explicitly as well, bought into a theoretical hoax. Is psychiatry a hoax, as practiced today? Unfortunately, the answer is mostly yes. What do I recommend the organization upon leaving after experiencing 3 decades of its history? 1. To begin with, let us be ourselves. Stop taking an unholy alliances without the members' permission. 2. Get real about science, politics, and money. Label each for what it is. That is, be honest. 3. Get out of bed with NAMI and the drug companies. APA should align itself, if one believes its rhetoric, with the true consumer groups, i.e., the ex-patients, psychiatric survivors, etc. 4. Talk to the membership. I can't be alone in my views. We seem to have forgotten a basic principle, the need to be patient/client/consumer satisfaction oriented. I always remember Manfred Bühler's wisdom. Quote, Loren, you must never forget that you are your patient's employee, unquote. In the end, they determine whether or not psychiatry survives in the service marketplace. Sincerely, Loren R. Mosher, M.D. So that concludes the first portion. I'm done reading the letter. Now I will read Loren R. Mosher, M.D.'s biography. Born and raised in California, Dr. Mosher received his B.A. from Stanford University and M.D. with honors from Harvard Medical School in 1961, where he subsequently took his psychiatric training. He was clinical director of mental health services for San Diego, California from July 1996 to November 1998, and a clinical professor of psychiatry at the School of Medicine, University of California at San Diego. One of his principal tasks in San Diego was the implementation of a managed care system for public sector adult clients. From 1988 to 1996, he was Chief Medical Director of the Montgomery County, Maryland Department of Addiction, Victim, and Mental Health Services, and a clinical professor of psychiatry at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences F. Edward Hubert School of Medicine. In his role in Montgomery County, he helped establish a number of innovative programs, including a consumer-owned and operated computer company and a new residential alternative to psychiatric hospitalizations for persons in crisis. His professional training and experience is both extensive and wide-ranging. He received research training at the National Institute of Mental Health (NIMH) Intramural Research Program in Bethesda, Maryland, and at the Tavistock Clinic in London. From 1968 to 1980, he was the first chief of NIMH Centers for Studies of Schizophrenia, while the NIMH he founded and served as first editor-in-chief of the Schizophrenia Bulletin. From 1970 to 1992, he was a collaborating investigator, then research director of the Satoria Project, Community Alternatives for the Treatment of Schizophrenia. In this role, he was instrumental in developing and researching an innovative non-drug, non-hospital, home-like residential treatment facility for acutely psychotic persons. The many publications from this experience demonstrate both the feasibility and cost-effectiveness of its non-traditional approach to the treatment of persons newly identified as having schizophrenia. Continuing his career-long interest in clinical research, Dr. Mosher was, 1990-1996, the principal investigator of a Center for Mental Health Services, CMHS, research/demonstration grant for the first study to compare clinical outcomes and costs of long-term, seriously mentally ill public sector clients. He termed them frequent flyers, randomly assigned with no psychopathology-based exclusion criteria, to a residential alternative to hospitalization or the psychiatric ward of a local general hospital, the McPath Project. The results of this study, which comparable clinical effectiveness with a 40% cost saving favoring the alternative, have important acute care implications. In 1980, while based at the University of Verona Medical School, Dr. Mosher conducted an in-depth study of Italy's revolutionary new mental health system. He documented that a new National Health Service-supported system of catchmented community care could stop admissions to a large state hospitals, enabling them to be phased down and eventually closed. He also showed that when the mandated community system was implemented properly, there were no adverse consequences for patients or the community. In his legal/psychiatric work, Dr. Mosher was expert witness for the plaintiffs in two successful class action lawsuits related to forced medication of psychiatric patients. New Jersey, Renee v. Klein, 1978. California, Jameson v. Farabee, 1983. He also was an expert witness for the plaintiffs in four class action suits, Maryland, Virginia, D.C., and Arizona, against Psychiatric Institutes of America, PIA, and National Medical Enterprises, NME, for medical malpractice and insurance fraud, 1994 to present. As a clinician, Dr. Mosher specialized in family and adolescent treatment, community psychiatry program consultation, and staff training. As a teacher, he was an acknowledged expert at conveying the essential and critical aspects of the interviewing process to students at all levels. In addition to over 100 articles and reviews, Dr. Mosher edited books on the psychotherapy of schizophrenia and on milieu treatment. His book, Community Mental Health, Principles and Practice, written with his Italian colleague Dr. Lorenzo Berti, was published by W. W. Norton in 1989. A revised, updated, abridged paperback version, Community Mental Health: A Practical Guide, appeared in 1994. It has been translated into 5 languages. Prior to his death, he founded his own consulting company, Soteria Associates, to provide individual, family, and system consultation using the breadth of experience described above. Dr. Mosher died July 10, 2004. For additional information and a directory of referrals to alternatives, please go to www.mindfreedom.org.